Yes.
You pray, and at the end you do you contemplate.
Yes.
Just going on what you're saying, I just want to add that there's so much richness, and I wouldn't have done it without the program. So I'm going to just continue supporting what you're saying.
Very good. Lectio Divina is the church's way of reading and meditating on the scriptures, in what Alvaro is talking about. It consists of what's called the four-rung ladder to heaven. There is Lectio, oh God, now I'm forgetting it. Lectio, let me just write. Lectio, Oratio, Contemplatio is the last part. Contemplatio. What's the, I'm missing one. Huh? Meditatio, that's it. Thank you. Lectio, meditatio, oratio, and contemplatio. God, I can't spell. Contemplatio. There you go. Lectio is the reading. You read the scriptures. Meditatio, you meditate on them. Meditate means that you recite them over and over, a phrase or a word that comes to mind. Oratio is prayer. You pray over the words, and contemplatio is the answer or the reply. This is how God responds back. By contemplation, you hear back from God the words that he is sending to you. So it is a dialogue of meditation that goes all the way back to the ancient church, all the way back to the time of the monks in the desert. This is what they did in order to connect themselves with God. It's what's called the four-rung ladder to heaven. Read, meditate, pray, and wait for the response. Lectio, meditatio, oratio, and contemplatio. And if you want to know how to do this more, there are plenty of books out there on it. I would suggest the book Praying the Scriptures for a Change by Tim Gray. Oh, I think it's with an A, actually. Tim Gray. The same guy that is the author of our textbook for this session. If you want a textbook for this, it's this book, Walking with God. Connie's got a version too. Hers is paperback, mine's hardback. Walking with God. This is the story, a journey through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. It actually goes in concert with this. This is an excellent resource. If you don't get anything, get this. It is a Bible timeline from the beginning of Genesis all the way through the Exodus, to the conquest, to the united monarchy, to the divided monarchy, to the exile, to the return, the intertestamental period, and then the New Testament. Okay? This is the Bible in summary. This is your guide to what I call the Reader's Digest version to the Bible. This will guide you through it from Genesis to Revelation. Okay? If you get, this is all of $5. You can get it online. It's called the Bible Timeline, and it goes with this book. These two go in tandem with each other. because they're both by the same company, Ascension Press. And it's all a part of the Great Adventure Bible Study series that Tim Gray and Jeff Cavins use.
Is that Walking with God, Tim Gray?
I'm sorry?
Is the book Walking with God, Tim Gray?
Yes, Tim Gray and Jeff Cavins. Okay? And these will be up here if you want to see them, in order that you can find these on Amazon. All right? So that's an excellent resource to have. I will reference them as we do our study of the Bible. Okay? So, Walking with God, yes. Walking with God by Tim Gray. You're welcome. I will repeat this several times as we go through. Like I said, they'll be up here. Connie has a copy. I'm sure several other people have either copies or know of them. All right? So, what is so remarkable about this book? Well, I think it's always important, again, to start at the beginning. Always best to start at the beginning. So I'm going to start with the assumption that you don't know anything about this book.
Right.
Good assumption?
Yes.
Good. All right.
Perfect.
Dementia.
Not quite.
Here's some basic facts about the Bible. There are 2 testaments. The Old Testament, good, and the New Testament. What's the Old Testament mostly about?
Stories.
Prophecy. Keep going.
Law.
Historical law. Tell me a character that you would find in the Old Testament, a Bible character. Moses. Abraham.
Elijah.
Isaac. Elijah.
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve. David. Joseph. Ruth. Samson. Good. Delilah. Yes.
There's Samson, there's Delilah.
So that's what you'll find in the Old Testament. What about the New Testament? What's it about? Jesus. The fulfillment of the prophecies of the Old Testament. Name a character you'll find in the New Testament. Peter. Paul. John.
Mary.
Matthew. Mark. Luke. That's right. You'll find all that. That's in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Now, here's a quick question. If I have the Bible like this is the front, this is the back. Where's the Old Testament?
The front.
In the front. If I go like this, am I touching the Old or the New Testament? Old. There's more Old Testament than New. There's more Old Testament than New. I see that hand, Chris. I haven't forgotten you. Here's the Old Testament in this Bible, and here's the New. Get it? Much more Old Testament, than New. Chris, what's your question? Yes. No problem. That's great. Yes, you will find the creation of the world in the Old Testament. Okay? So in the New Testament, that's this. This is the Old. Here's another little Bible trick. If you have your Bible and you roughly divide it in half, you're going to land in the Old Testament. Almost always. Now this is one time in which it didn't. I landed in the book of Sirach. But if you're basically divided in half, you end up in the Psalms, generally. But in this case, in the way this Bible is written or organized, halfway you're in the book of Sirach. Okay? So if you just divide your Bible in half and open it, you generally land in the Psalms. Okay? So, Old and New Testament. Here's something you may not have known. The Bible originally was written in 2 languages, primarily 2. Hebrew and Greek. There are some parts of the Bible that are written in Aramaic. Aramaic. Yes. Most likely Jesus, when he was living here on earth, spoke Aramaic, but he knew Greek. And he certainly knew Hebrew. Why? Because everyone in his day and age that had any connections with Rome, or commerce, or economics of any kind knew Greek. Greek back in Jesus' day was like English is in our day. If you know English, you can practically go anywhere in the world. China, Japan, Australia, Brazil, you'll find someone speaking English because it's the economic language of the world. It just is. Okay? In Jesus' day, the economic language, the lingua franca of the world was Greek. This is why the New Testament was written in Greek, because everyone knew it. Who knew Hebrew? Only the Jews, so it was not the primary lingua franca of the world. That's why the Bible wasn't in the New Testament written in Hebrew. It was written in Greek, because everyone should have access to the scriptures to understand them. You hear what St. Jerome said? You read the scriptures like you consume the host. Okay? But the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, mostly Hebrew. Like I said, there were some parts written in Aramaic. Well, what parts were written in Aramaic? Mostly in the book of Daniel. Mostly in the book of Daniel.
And what region did Aramaic come from? That same region?
Yes, it's a Semitic language related to both Hebrew and Arabic. It's an ancient Near Eastern language that's related to that. It's not quite Yiddish, but it's similar. It's the common Near Eastern language of the time of Jesus. Okay? The New Testament was entirely written in Greek.
Was it a known language or was it a people's language?
What? Aramaic? No, it was a people's language.
A people's language.
Yes. Hebrew was the scholarly language of which the Bible was written.
And what about Latin?
Oh, Latin was spoken by the Romans.
They spoke Greek and
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
So Greek was the universal.
Yes.
Latin was more a Roman.
It was a Roman thing, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Then, as Rome's influence spread, Latin became more popular, which is what prompted St. Jerome to translate the Bible out of Greek and into Latin. That's the Vulgate, yes. Mm-hmm.
Is Aramaic language still around?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Syria.
It's mostly in Syria, but it's also in Israel, Lebanon, parts of Jordan. Yeah, that Near Eastern region still has areas that speak Aramaic. Yes. In fact, there's one of the rites, I think it's the Syriac rite of the Catholic Church, that conducts its services all in Aramaic. So you want to hear the Our Father the way Jesus most likely said it, you can hear it in Aramaic in the Syriac Rite Church.
Something I like that.
And in the movie of the Passion, it's all in Aramaic.
I'm not sure if that was Aramaic, I think it was Hebrew.
Jesus was speaking in Aramaic.
He normally spoke in Aramaic, but he also knew Hebrew. How do I know that? Because he read the scriptures. All the scriptures were written in Hebrew. So he had to have known that. How do you know he knew Greek? Because like I said, it was the lingua franca. If he was a carpenter's son, he had to have come in contact with Greek-speaking people. And in fact, in the New Testament, Jesus encounters Greek-speaking Greeks in the temple, and he must have communicated them in Greek rather than Hebrew. So he was polylinguistic.
Mm-hmm.
which was not unusual back then. Like I said, he may have known Latin, but I don't think so. Maybe, you know, but in the Passion of the Christ, he speaks Latin to Pilate, which it might have been, but I don't know. I don't think Jesus was I don't want to say that sophisticated. I don't think he had a need to speak Latin. It was Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic. That's what his region was about. Yes.
Joseph is divine. He would know
Everything.
Yes, but as a human, he had to learn everything like you and I learn it.
Perfect God, perfect man.
Yes, he was perfect God and he was perfect man. So he learned everything like you and I did. He didn't come out of the womb speaking the Beatitudes. He had to grow up, just like you and I did. Mary and Joseph had to teach him how to speak and walk and talk and all of that. Can you imagine that?
Were there schools that children went to?
There were rabbi schools, yeah. There was rabbinic schools. Yeah. But not like what we understand as public schools. It was because he was Jewish. He would go to the synagogue school to learn Hebrew for his bar mitzvah, like modern Jewish boys do today.
No algebra.
No algebra, no. He probably didn't. He probably wouldn't have taken algebra.
The 7 last words, were they in Latin or Hebrew?
He probably spoke them in Aramaic. But in the New Testament, they're written down in Greek. There are 46 individual books in the Old Testament and 27 books in the New Testament, for a total of 73 books total. What do we mean books? We mean Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, etc. Those are the names of the books. And in the Old Testament, there's 46 of them. In the New Testament, there's 27. Okay, that's like the basics.
Look for Jeopardy.
Yes, next time you're on Jeopardy, how many books are there in the Bible? 73. Unless you're Protestant. Then you have 66 books, yes.
Not a good number.
7.
Because 7 is perfect.